Are you getting enough organ meats in your diet? Today we're going to talk about why you should, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to incorporate them more than you probably are right now. So organ meats, also known as offal, spelled O-F-F-A-L, not A-W-F-U-L, which I think a lot of us all think is the description of organ meats. Definitely not something that is prevalent in American society, at least. In other cultures, you guys are lucky if you do incorporate organ meats in your diet quite often, because it hasn't permeated into your brain that it's disgusting like it has here in America, which is very unfortunate. Because organ meats are very, very nutritionally dense powerhouses of food, and unfortunately, we've kind of pushed them off to the side as something disgusting, and frankly, it's a problem. Now, when I was getting my health coaching certification via the Primal Health Coach Institute, as well as my Autoimmune Paleo or AIP coaching certification, this was drilled into me a lot, that organ meats are very essential and nutrient dense things that really can help you to heal and to get all the nutrients that you may be missing from something like a standard American diet. So I know this is not news to me, at least, and I think if you have read anything like the Paleo approach or any of the autoimmune paleo kind of books or anything like that, they all stress it as well. So this may not be new information to you. However, I think recently it's kind of come out that it's even more important for us to have organ meats than we originally thought. I think a lot of times we think of it as a bonus rather than something essential. Now, recently on the Autoimmune Wellness website, there was an article posted by Dr. Rob Abbott, who's doing a study with Mickey and Angie on using AIP for Hashimoto's patients. And they've been doing this study for several months, and there's some information that they've discovered through this study that they think was worth sharing with us. So this article was titled, "Are You Getting Enough Nutrients on AIP?" And it kind of discussed how they were doing the study, and some kind of almost alarming results were coming out of when you remove certain things from your diet, as you do in the case of an elimination diet like AIP, and don't replace them with other things, that you can actually have nutrient deficiencies. So what they're talking about in the context of something like AIP is when you remove legumes, nuts, seeds, eggs, and dairy, you're removing a lot of these essential nutrients like vitamin K, folate, copper, magnesium, and choline. And if you don't replace them with something that's going to give you these things, you're going to be nutrient deficient. Therefore, you're not going to heal as much as you would otherwise, and you would still have issues, essentially. Organ meats have all of these things, and sometimes in what they said, staggering amounts. So that's why it's kind of almost essential, they say. It's not really a bonus anymore. It is essential to incorporate organ meats into our diets, especially if you are on something like AIP. Dr. Abbott even goes so far as to say that these organ meats are nature's multivitamin, and that kind of goes to show, because if you look at all these cultures in history and even other cultures around the world, they are kind of a prized item. Many cultures, they would eat the organ meats and leave the muscle meats because they didn't find them to be nearly as nutritious or anything. So it's something that we have to change our attitude towards it and try to incorporate it more. Now, this is where the how to get it in more is going to come into play, because if you're anything like me, it makes you squeamish. And I mean, I grew up, my dad was eating liverwurst in front of me all the time, and the smell, yeah, I just couldn't do it. And I really, really tried to embrace them and incorporate them into my diet, but I'm still having a hard time. So these are some of the things that I've done that have helped me to get them in more. I want you to try things though as well, because what I might not like doesn't mean that you're not gonna like it. And I also would love if you could comment below if you do like organ meats and there are things that you've done to get to that point, or certain recipes or anything that you like. Let us know, so that way we can all as a community kind of just help each other with this, because they are so essential. All right, so the first tip this one's a tip that I'm gonna give to you guys, but it's not gonna work for me so well, is to mix it in with something else. I think the standard is something like 1/6 of like maybe ground calf liver with like the rest being ground beef and putting in with a bunch of spices and stuff like that. For me, this doesn't work just because I can, it's like a shark. You know how they do the thing where the shark, you have this whole ocean and you have one little tiny drop of blood and the sharks suddenly come. That's me with beef liver. I can taste it. Like you can put one tiny little bit of beef liver in there and yeah. My husband's even more sensitive to it. Like I can try to hide it in there and I'm like, okay, it's not so bad. And he's like, So you got to think of your family too if you're incorporating this in all of your diets. But I think it can definitely work for some people. And certain recipes, like my gyro meat, for example, that I shared a few weeks ago, that is actually a lot more of a meat that I would be willing to eat because there's a lot of flavor in it. There's a lot of garlic and a lot of like really, really flavorful components. So you won't taste the liver as much when you have that. If it's just something like straight ground beef and calf liver, no, I'm not gonna do it. But with other like onions and garlic and just, lots of different flavors then that are kind of overpowering, then you're gonna probably be more apt to eat it. You can also try things like chilies, which is a little bit harder on AIP since you don't have the tomato aspects, but like a pumpkin chili or something like that may be able to get by. I mean, like, experiment with these, and like I said, don't take it from me because what I like and what you like may be completely different things. Now, when it comes to other kind of livers, chicken and duck livers, I actually like. I can do a pate of those a lot better and not gag or want to, throw it out the window. And so what's astonishing is like I will go out to restaurants and I'll get chicken livers or duck foie gras or any of these kind of things, and I love them. And I think one of the things, this is one of my tips actually, is to, if you're not on AIP, go to restaurants and try these dishes. If they happen to have AIP components and you're on AIP, bonus, but if you're not on AIP, try them out and see and maybe figure out what the ingredients are and stuff and try to kind of come back and recreate them for yourself. Or see what they pair it with, because that's kind of how I learned to pair radishes with my pâtés, and I really love the combination, and it kind of helps take away some of that flavor as well. So just kind of like look at how the pros do it and try to translate that back into your own meals as well, because they have taken it to a level that like people are going to restaurants to go eat it, so it can't be that bad if they're doing that, right? And then a couple other things that I don't taste as organ meaty as other things that I find much more palatable and something that we can eat with somewhat regular basis. Chicken hearts, those are pretty good when they're sauteed with some like onion and garlic, and you can find some recipes online. Just Google it and find something that sounds good to you. So you can do those. And then beef tongue is actually not bad at all. It's the least organ meaty tasting thing I think I've ever had. And I've had it in tacos before, which is really good. You can make an AIP taco, make Downshiftology's cassava flour tortilla recipe, which is one of my favorites. And then you can make the beef tongue in a way that you're gonna shred it. So Google a recipe for that. And then, so you shred it, and then you can add things like radishes and cilantro and lettuce and guacamole and stuff just to make it, other components so you're not just tasting the beef tongue, but it really doesn't taste very bad at all. Like, I'm like not selling it at all, but it doesn't taste organ meaty. It just tastes a lot more like beef than anything. And then if you really, really can't eat it, and this is where I was for a long time, like I couldn't figure out, I didn't know this beef tongue taco thing and all these other things. I was really just, every time I tried to do the mix with ground beef thing, it just didn't work for me. So there are two other ways that you can get them in that are more in like a supplement form. One is that you can cut up some frozen beef, or you can even like take a raw one, beef liver, and then cut it up into super tiny little pieces, and then just kind of freeze them and take them as supplements. Just kind of pop them down. Make sure they're tiny pieces so they don't get stuck, because you don't really want to go to the hospital because you have beef liver stuck in your throat. And then the other supplement kind of thing that I personally do, this is my go-to method of getting liver in, it's kind of like the cheater way, I guess, but it works for me, is to take like desiccated liver capsules. I like the ones from Perfect Supplements because they are pasture raised, grass fed, all that. They just kind of look, they're just like little capsules, and they have, I mean, I guess they just took the beef liver, freeze dried it, and then put it into capsules. I think it says, yeah, take 4 capsules per day. I tend to do it like 2 to 3 times a week. I'll just have it with dinner one night and just take 4 at that time. There have been times where I've done it every day, like if I feel like I'm really, really low, like lacking energy or something, but for the most part, I do it 2 to 3 times a week, and that's the way I tend to get it in, just because the other ways, I'll do the beef tongue every so often and things like that, but this is the way that works for me. I'm really selling this organ meat stuff, aren't I? I know. It's so hard for me sometimes because like I know how good it is for us, and it's one of those things that we all should eat. So like I said before, if you have any tips, anything that really works for you, or any recipes that you really, really enjoy, comment below and let us know so that we can all kind of help each other with this one. I am obviously not an expert in organ meats, far from it, but I challenge you to eat more, and I'm gonna challenge myself to eat more as well, because they are so nutrient dense, and because they will help our immune systems to work as well as they possibly can, which is what we really want with the context of autoimmune disease. So let's challenge ourselves to try to do that. And that's it for this week. If you have not already gotten the password for my paleo freebie library, make sure you go to the link below and go ahead and get that, because you get all kinds of paleo and autoimmune paleo and a couple Whole30 resources, quick start guides, cookbooks, meal plans, all kinds of stuff when you sign up for that. And otherwise, I will see you next week, which will be exciting because next week I'm actually going to Wild Zora, and I'm going to go see how they make their products. We're gonna discuss what they do, why they do it, and all that. And I'm really excited about this because they've got some pretty great products. And so that'll be next week.